In May 1995, a programmer at Netscape named Brendan Eich was given 10 days. Not 10 days to design a language, 10 days to ship one into a browser already in beta, on a schedule nobody was going to move. He wrote it, they shipped it. It got mocked for a decade as a toy for making text scroll across the bottom of a page. You have that language open right now. It's running on whatever screen you're reading this on. The company that rushed him would be dead in 9 years. Its browser held 80% of the market and fell to almost nothing. And the reason everybody gives is that Microsoft bundled Explorer with Windows for free. That's not wrong, it's just incomplete. So, how Netscape got to 80%? Why the free browser killed it? And the thing the company was building the whole time that it never once understood, it owned. If you were online between 1994 and 1998, you didn't use the internet, you used Netscape. The distinction didn't exist yet. You remember the throbber, the letter N in the corner, meteors falling behind it, telling you the machine was still alive while the modem worked. You watched it more than you watched the page. Before it came the handshake, dial tone, touch tones, then that shriek and hiss of two modems negotiating. 20 seconds of noise you learnt to diagnose by ear. You knew from the pitch whether you'd gotten 28.8 or dropped back to 14.4. The pages were grey, not white, grey. The default nobody changed. Times New Roman, blue links, purple after you clicked. Down near the bottom, a small animated button that said Netscape Now, meteors and all, telling you to download the browser you were already using. It was on hundreds of thousands of pages. Closest thing the early web had to a flag. And somewhere on that screen, something you never noticed, that nobody noticed, was quietly the most valuable thing the company would ever build. It wasn't the browser. Because here's the part that gets skipped. Some of you paid for the browser. $39, $49 for commercial use. There was a box, retail carton, shrink wrap, on a shelf next to Norton and Quicken. A browser you could buy. That box is the whole story. April 4th, 1994. Mark Andreessen is 22. He had co-written Mosaic at the University of Illinois, but the university made it clear the code was theirs. Therefore, he had to build it again from nothing. Jim Clark, who had just walked out of Silicon Graphics, the company he founded in 1982, put up the money. The codename was Mozilla, Mosaic Killer. You name a project that when you're certain the thing you're building is the thing that matters. August 9th, 1995. The stock priced at 28, opened at 71, touched 75, closed at 58 and a quarter, so anyone who bought at the peak was down 22% by dinner, on the day now remembered as the greatest IPO in history. A 16-month-old company that had never turned a profit, valued at $2.9 billion. Clark was worth over $500 million by nightfall. You know what that day started? Revenue became optional if growth was steep enough. But look at what the market actually bought that morning. A company whose business was selling a piece of software. The market bought the wrong asset. So did the company. Ike's 10 days had shipped 3 months earlier, and nobody at that IPO mentioned it once. 4 months later, Bill Gates delivered the internet tidal wave memo and turned Microsoft 9 degrees. Internet Explorer 1.0 had already shipped that August inside Windows 95 Plus. Internet Explorer 3 reached rough parity in 1996. Therefore, Internet Explorer 4 did not have to compete. It just had to be there, welded into the Windows shell. Free, permanently, to everyone, on the operating system shipping on 90% of new machines. Netscape's share fell from 80% to roughly 50% by 1998. By 2002, Internet Explorer held over 90%, and every account stops here, satisfied, like a crime's been solved. Here's the fair objection. Netscape knew. They weren't fools betting the company on shrink wrap. By 1997, well over half their revenue came from corporate software, enterprise server, proxy server, mail and directory, plus the NetCenter portal. Look at that and you would say they saw the browser commoditizing and ran for higher ground. They didn't run, they were pushed. The browser went free because Microsoft forced it free, therefore the money had to come from somewhere, and servers were what was left standing. That's not a pivot, that's a company being backed into its own basement and calling it a strategy. And they sold those servers to the enterprise so the enterprise would standardize on Navigator, which means when the browser went, the reason to buy the servers went with it. Microsoft gave away its own web server for nothing. The portal was a land grab against Yahoo they entered 3 years late with no content. Every move they made was downstream of the browser, even the retreat. They never considered that the browser wasn't the asset. So what was? Look at what shipped alongside it. SSL, built at Netscape in 1994 and 1995. Solving a problem nobody was paying them to solve. It became TLS. It encrypts essentially every transaction on the modern internet. Cookies, Lou Montulli, 1994. Every session you've ever held online. And JavaScript. 10 days. Netscape gave all three away as open specifications, freely, without hesitation, because they were plumbing. Because the browser was the product, they had it inverted. The plumbing was the empire. The box was the receipt. January 1998, they open sourced Navigator. Visionary, but 5 years late. The Mozilla rewrite 8 years and shipped nothing usable until after the company was gone. November 24th, 1998, AOL announces the acquisition. Roughly 4.2 billion in stock, closing at a stock inflated 10. AOL wanted the portal and the brand, not the browser. Nobody wanted the browser, that was always the point. United States versus Microsoft went to trial in May 1998. Jackson found Microsoft an illegal monopolist in 1999. The remedy landed in 2001 and 2002, long after the market it was meant to protect had been decided by people no longer in the room. July 15th, 2003, AOL shuts the browser division. The brand dies in March 2008. 9 years. There's a copy of Navigator behind glass in Mountain View, retail box, shrink wrap unbroken. A product that got sold once, briefly, before the industry it created decided that what it contained couldn't be owned. But at that shutdown, AOL wrote a $2 million check to a foundation. Firefox 1.0 shipped November 9th, 2004, and by 2009 held roughly 30%, the direct heir of the code Netscape gave away. And this, right now, the padlock in your address bar, the session that remembers you, the scripts moving on the screen, that's Netscape. All of it. Still running. They didn't lose the war. They never noticed they'd won it. In 10 days, in May, when nobody was counting. So, did you pay the $49, or did you know the guy at work who did?